Hello, I'm Michael Dall and welcome to a special edition of the Economic and Construction Market Review. I'm joined today by Noble Francis, the Economics Director at the CPA, and we're going to discuss what's happened in the construction industry over the past month, but also look forward into 2015 to discuss the prospects going forward. Now Noble, this month our ECMR picked up an increase in the value of construction contracts, increasing by 6% from the equivalent month in 2013. I'm just wondering what the CPA's view is of the construction industry going forward as Barbary BI see the continual growth in contract award values and see the future pipeline of work being relatively strong within the industry.
Well, Michael, we're very optimistic with respect to the construction industry over the next 12 to 18 months. If you look at the latest Office for National Statistics data, construction output was 1.8% higher than the previous month and 3.5% higher than a year ago. What we tend to do is look at the quarterly data, but even with the quarterly data, it's still looking quite optimistic. Construction output in Q3 was 0.8% higher than the previous quarter, and for this year, our estimate of construction output is 4.8% growth. Looking to next year, we're even more optimistic and we're anticipating 5.3%.
Mm-hmm. So moving on to talk about the residential sector, which has obviously been driving growth within the industry over the past 12 to 18 months. Our ECMR this month picked up a 34% increase in the number of residential units being awarded compared to October 2013. And obviously this is set against the backdrop of various sentiment surveys indicating that the housing market is cooling. But on the back of house builders such as Persimmon forecasting huge order books going forward, I wonder what the CPA's view is of the residential sector's performance at the moment and prospects going forward.
A lot of media commentators have made a lot about the fact that the housing market appears to be slowing, and it is to a certain degree, but it's slowing growth, so it is still growth. And if you look at house building rather than the housing market more generally, it's still looking very positive. Private housing starts last year rose 19.6% in Great Britain. This year we're anticipating 18% growth in housing starts, and next year we're still expecting 10% growth in housing starts. Very positive growth, and most of the major house builders appear very positive going forward over the next 12 months. After that, there's a degree of uncertainty. We're into a new government. We're not sure whether the mortgage market is likely to be heavily regulated, but at least for the next 12 months, it's looking very positive.
And moving on to talk about the commercial sector, it's obviously traditionally the biggest sector within the industry, is the sort of strongest driver of growth within construction. We again at a contract award level have found really strong growth over the past 12 months. But picking up on what you said about the ONS figures, the latest ONS figures, I'd noticed that there was a drop both quarter on quarter and compared to Q3 in 2013. So what's the CPA's view of the sort of future prospects within commercial and retail?
There was a slight drop in the most recent commercial offices and retail data, but looking forward, the prospects are very good. We obviously have a vast array of projects that you can see all around London, but if you look at new orders and the project pipeline from Barbary BI, projects appear to be coming in cities outside of the capital, and that's good news for the industry, especially as you say, as historically it's traditionally been the largest construction sector. We're forecasting 10% growth over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and you're confident that will be not only in London. I mean, we have, as you rightly said, we've seen larger projects in the cities in the north, such as Leeds and obviously Manchester. So you're confident that pattern will continue?
Leeds, Manchester, and also in Glasgow. You've seen an increase in demand over the last 12 to 18 months in cities outside the capital. But what that's done initially is just use up the excess floor space. Now we're seeing those projects actually come into the pipeline, and then after a lag of around 6 to 12 months, we should see those projects providing activity on the ground, which is likely to be over the next 12 months.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, if we sort of take residential, commercial, I guess the third biggest sector within construction would be infrastructure, which has been quite interesting for me over the last few months, looking at the levels of output within the infrastructure sector, which tend to be pointing downwards, but also our contracts awarded have also been lower over the last 3 or 4 months. Notable exceptions to this are the larger contracts, like the Northern Line extension to Battersea, which is obviously a major sort of game changer in terms of the size of the contract, but that is within London. So what do the CPA and yourself think about infrastructure's prospects going forward?
It's a good question. The government has a national infrastructure pipeline with £384 billion worth of work. So theoretically, the prospects should be very good. Now, what government has done is struggled to actually get the plan into delivery on the ground. We are seeing projects within London especially, and work is peaking on projects like Thameslink and Crossrail being the largest projects by value in Europe. So there is work out there is activity out there, but it's not coming through as much as the government would expect. Now, even still, with projects peaking like Crossrail and Thameslink, with energy projects coming through, with a recovery in roads construction, we still have 8% growth over the next 2 years in infrastructure.
Okay, so you're expecting more of the larger type projects to come on stream and really make a difference?
Very much so. The smaller projects, especially from government's perspective, are more at local authority level, and local authorities are still financially constrained. At the larger end of things, it's easier to get the finance, whether it's from private sources or from main government departments who are willing to spend on high-profile projects.
Yeah. From the infrastructure sector, we've also noticed a real upsurge in the number of renewable energy contracts. That's both onshore and offshore wind farm projects. Do you think that's changing the nature of the infrastructure sector within the UK?
It certainly has done over the last few years, and that will be a continuing trend, primarily on offshore wind. Onshore is always a struggle. Lots of projects go into the planning system but then stay there or get rejected. Offshore, the UK is currently the largest user of offshore wind in the world.
Yeah.
And that will be a continuing trend over the next decade as we see the round 3 of offshore wind generation projects come through.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Noble. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.